You have to recognize as a child of God that tests will come our way that we can't pray away. Tests will come that you can't fast away. I know some of us been fasting, but can I tell you this morning, in reference to that test, you can go ahead and eat because God has permitted it to come. And so no need in you missing meals because there are certain things you... Okay, I'm finna show you that in Luke 18. I'm finna show you that temptation ain't nothing to play with. Luke 8 and 13. Now notice very carefully. But the ones on the rock, talking about rocky believers, are those who, when they hear, receive the word with joy. So you got folk coming to church, hearing the word, getting excited, shouting, dancing, and so forth. But notice what he says about the rocky believers. These have no root. Who believe, hear me, church, for a while. But watch what happened. In time of temptation, they fall away. The subject this morning, handling temptation. Look at what another person in his or her eye and tell them, our subject this morning, handling temptation. Now, to handle means or has to do with the way a person chooses to deal with something. In dealing with temptation, I also want you to think for a moment, how does temptation deal with you? Because a lot of time, instead of us dealing with the temptation in the right way, we allow temptation to deal with our minds in a negative way. You'll be surprised of people in church this morning who are dealing with temptations, but what they're dealing with is causing them to be unhappy. You'll be surprised of folk that only smile when they are around folk, but because of how they're choosing to deal with temptation, they pretty much stay sad all of the time. I'm talking folk that come to church, but if the truth be told about them, he or she is the type of person that's up and down because of how they choose to handle temptation. See, if you don't handle temptation right, temptation will cause you to be a person that is depressed. And let me tell you something, you can have a new car and be depressed. You can have a good job and be depressed. Oh, I'm finna hit you right now. You can be married but depressed. Am I right about that? Depression is not prejudice. It will attack whomever will allow it to control them or to dominate them. And if you don't learn as a child of God how to deal with temptation, again, you will allow temptation to cause you to be sad, unhappy, or miserable. Temptation has to do with a time or a period of testing. In other words, temptation has to do with a season where God will permit his people that he loves, he will allow them to be tested. It has to do with a person's faith being put to the test or being put to the proof. In other words, you said a lot of things, but now a test is coming, and this test is going to try your faith. You said that God can do anything, and now here's a problem that if you don't stand on that, the problem might take you out. You have to recognize as a child of God that tests will come our way that we can't pray away. Tests will come that you can't fast away. I know some of us been fasting, but can I tell you this morning, in reference to that test, you can go ahead and eat because God has permitted it to come. And so no need in you missing meals because there are certain things you cannot fast away. If your God has permitted it or said it is a season where your faith is going to be tested. Do you not recognize when you tell folks certain things about God, how wonderful God is, how awesome he is, how he will deliver, how he will heal, how he will save, and how he'll bring a person through this, that, and the other? Child of God, do you not realize that you're going to be put to the test to see if you're just talking or is that something that you're walking? See, it's a difference in talking, but then it's another thing to actually walk out what you talk every day. Can I be honest with you? Because if God is truly going to use a person, then he is going to allow that person to go through some tests. You high five somebody, if you don't mind, tell them you're going through a test. Can I say that again? It sounded so good. We're going through some tests. But how are you handling that test? How are you dealing with that test? Has that test got a hold of you and seemingly turning you any which way but loose to the point to where the only thing you can think about is that test? Can't sleep because of that test. God, don't you know I'm hurting? Yes. Lord, don't you see what they're doing to me? Yes. Lord, will you move this? No. 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 No matter how rough it may seem to you and I, the thing you're going through, according to Paul, is something that Paul deems common. Isn't it amazing how folk get bent all out of shape, acting like what they're going through ain't nobody else seen this trial? God ain't let nobody else be up under as much as he is allowing me to be up under. My thing to you is, have you read the Bible? And if you read it, do you really understand that there is nothing new under the sun? What you're going through, my child, is something that is common, though it's painful. It is yet something that's common to man. See, some of us ain't clapping because you don't believe it. You think God is allowing you to go through something and you're the only one battling. I am so tired of folk who want to play the victim as if they're the only one battling. Do you not realize every bona fide believer is going through something? We all being tried. Our faith is being tried. Our dedication is being tried. Our loyalty to God is being tried. But I got to step up and pass that test so I can get my blessing. Am I preaching to anybody in here? Shout to somebody, that test is common. You didn't shout it like you mean. Look at another person and tell them that test is, shout to them what it is. It's what? It's what? It's what? Hurting, but it's painful, but it's. Even if God in his sovereignty allows you to lose something in the test, that's still common. Job lost everything. But you'll never lose without gaining. You'll never lose without gaining, child of God. There are some folk out there going through enough this morning that they can be up on this stage helping me preach this message this morning. They got their masters in tests. Yeah, somebody got your bachelor in tests. Somebody done graduated magna cum laude in tests. Going through stuff. But realizing at the end of the day, this is common. Stop crying. That's common. Stop laying out of church. That is. I got to just break that down. You'll be surprised, folk, you fellowshipping with in the church that are smiling and praising God, yet going through one of the most difficult battles they've ever faced. But you can't even smell that they're in the fire. There's somebody in the fire this morning, but you won't smell smoke on her. She's a praiser. Do you hear me? I'm on fire this morning, but I am a praiser because I realize to whom much is given, much is also required. And this that I'm facing is common. Can I keep it real? More folk that backslide or leave the church or leave God do so at a time when they're under a test. Listen, to backslide simply means to withdraw. It doesn't necessarily say that a person completely leaves the church. Can I teach right? Because you have folk that come to church, but temptation is working on them in such a way that they're here, but they're in a backslidden condition because they're here, but they ain't believing God for nothing. They ain't looking for God to do nothing he said he would do in their life. They're simply showing up, going through the motions, because a backslidden state is upon that person, to the point to where he or she is no longer trusting God, listen to me, for their deliverance. No longer trusting for their healing. No longer trusting that God gonna make a way.